Hey guys, Christoph the Polish Geek here, and I'm going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because I very much love the movie. First, I'm going to say first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies, both first and second, I love them. Both first and second Guardians of the Galaxy movies were some of my favorite movies in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yes, the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie generally seems to be a fan favorite among fans, and rightfully so, because it's certainly one of their best movies, while the second Guardians of the Galaxy seems more divisive, and I've seen it has a lot more detractors, even though I personally always loved the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and in some ways I thought it even was better than the first. There, I said it, but it's right. I always felt that there were parts that second of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie was even better than the first. But yeah, I always loved both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And honestly, I feel this third movie, now even more unpopular opinion, but I think it might actually have been my favorite in the trilogy. I feel it was a perfect send-off and conclusion to the character arcs of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it was simply wonderful. Because objectively, Marvel Cinematic Universe has not been very good post-Endgame, with the exception of No Way Home. That movie was fantastic, but other than Spider-Man No Way Home, most Marvel Cinematic Universe movies have not actually been very good. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is simply fantastic, and honestly now, I think I might have even liked it than Spider-Man No Way Home. Yup, I thought it was that good actually. Like, the movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes, and yet it never felt too long. It literally flew by. Like, I feel the runtime for the movie was simply perfect. The very first thing I will talk about in this movie is that this movie is much, much darker than all the previous not just first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but probably Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. This movie is literally darker than any movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which might seem odd for some people because first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies are actually pretty light, some of the most light-hearted MCU movies, full of comedy, jokes, and humor, but this is just so much darker, and yet, for some reason, it doesn't feel out of place with the first two movies at all. Quite the opposite. It felt so natural, so natural with them, which probably just shows how well done it is, actually. And also, and despite being much darker, I will say there is lots of comedy, but we'll get to that later. Like, when I said it's so much darker than the first two movies, the best comparison I think I would give is Temple of Doom, which is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, by the way. If first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies would be like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade, this is decidedly Temple of Doom, which means that even though it's much, much darker, it feels very natural, which I already said. And another thing I will say about it is that the horror and creepiness here is just so well done, because even though Multiverse of Madness was promoted and advertised as MCU's first horror movie, like, all the horror and creepiness there felt so artificial, while here it feels genuinely natural and genuinely scary and creepy. So yeah, like, for example, there's so much animal cruelty in this movie, like we learn the backstory of Rocket, who's my favorite member of the Guardians of the Galaxy team, by the way, and when we see how cruelly he was experimented on by the High Evolutionary, who, by the way, deserves to be talked on his own. I'll get to it very soon. But when we see the backstory of Rocket and how cruelly he was experimented on, yeah, this is some really dark stuff, but it felt so natural and so much, and makes so much sense in the grand context of things, actually. And literally, this is one of the best parts of the movie, the backstory of Rocket and how much we learn more about him. This literally is one of the best parts of the whole movie, and it's so interesting and engaging, and dark and creepy. So now we'll talk about the High Evolutionary that was actually experimenting on Rocket. Like, High Evolutionary is such a well done villain. Like, I think MCU hasn't done such well done villains in a long time. Especially that I think High Evolutionary is probably the most evil villain in the entire MCU. That's right, possibly even more evil than Ego the Living Planet, who also was pretty evil. But High Evolutionary, I think, is literally the most evil and hateable villain in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you don't even love to hate him, no, you just outright hate him, and you want to punch him in the face each time he's on screen with all his cruel experiments on animals and children, especially for someone like me who loves both animals and children. But yes, he was a really hateable villain. And because the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, even though it has some elements of an outright horror or thriller, it still doesn't change the fact that there is still lots of comedy in this movie, like there should be in Guardians of the Galaxy. And the humor in this movie was great. I thought the jokes very much landed with me and were just perfect. I love the characters' interactions, quotes, and the primary example of that is all the interactions between Peter Quill and Gamora, because this is not the same Gamora that Peter Quill was in love with. No, the Gamora that Peter Quill was in love with died in Infinity War. This is the Gamora they pulled back from 2014 timeline before she ever met Peter Quill. And she's also much more of a jerk here than, because it's very much Gamora before her character development. And all the interactions between her and Peter Quill are just funny. Like, each time Peter Quill desperately tells her that she used to be his girlfriend and how much he was in love with her and their great relationship, and Gamora just brushes off and even gets angry at him. This is all really funny, and their chemistry is so, and their dynamic is just so great and so funny, and it's literally one of my favorite parts in the movie, and I would just constantly laugh and all that. And a big spoiler, nope, they do not get back together. But I'm pretty happy about that, because in all honesty, if they did get back together, that would be pretty cliche and cheesy. So yes, I'm really, really happy they did not get back together. But also, the conclusion Peter Quill, by the way, gets, I think, that both Peter Quill and Gamora get, I think is just perfect. And I really love the conclusion of their characters. Like, that's not necessarily where I envisioned they would end up, but I thought where they ended up was perfect. And Rocket, who I told you was also experimented on, this is also very much his movie, actually. And his character arc is also pretty great, actually. In general, all the character arcs that the characters have and complete are great. And I think every member of the Guardians of the Galaxy team ended where they belonged. So that was great. And the one more character I'll talk about is Adam Warlock, because I was very much interested in what they were going to do with the character ever since he was teased in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And here, I'm glad he has a great character arc too, and I thought he was a pretty well done character. So, yeah, I loved Adam Warlock in this movie. And the final thing I'll talk about is the creative designs for locations, for the various different locations that the movie happens to be in. Like, for example, the textures of white colors in the medical facility that the characters are in look great. And also, I really loved how there was a location of a planet called like Counter Earth, which looked very much like suburbs on Earth, but except that the planet was dominated by like mutant animals, which was the creation of the High Evolutionary, by the way. But yes, I love the various creative and imaginative designs of various different locations this movie was in. So when it comes to visuals and designs, this movie also excels in here. But overall, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is literally the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since Avengers Endgame. That's right, I think I might have even liked it more than Spider-Man No Way Home, which says a lot. But although I'm pretty sure this is the last really good MCU movie we're going to get in a very long time. So I guess we should be thankful for the amazingness of this movie, because this is very likely the last good MCU movie we will get in a long time. But oh well, at least we got a fantastic conclusion here, so that's all good. But I loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I literally think it's probably one of my favorite MCU movies, and it even is probably my favorite of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, which says a lot. But I really, really loved that movie. So, thank you guys for checking out this video. Press the like button. What did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Did you like it? What is your favorite movie in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy? Please subscribe this channel and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you soon. Bye!